All right,
All right.
good to go.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Whispir and Best Buddies webinar. Excited to have you all here today with Trevor and myself. We'll be discussing how Best Buddies ran a top performing SMS marketing campaign, and multiple campaigns actually, that boosted their conversion rates by over 131% and increased their year-over-year revenue by 30%. So before we get into it, some housekeeping items. All attendees will remain listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. If you've got any questions, please submit them via the chat. We'll see if we can get to them. If we can't get to them during the chat, we will definitely send them out after the presentation and share all those details with you after that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, we can chat. First of all, just to introduce myself, I'm David Gilbert, the VP here in Americas Whispir. And Trevor, over to you.
My name is Trevor Paxton, and I'm the Director of Friendship Walks and State Development for Best Buddies International. And I'm excited to be here and chat a little bit more about how we were able to leverage Whispir and all of the ways that we incorporated it into our National Friendship Walks event.
Great. So it's a quick agenda. It looks like a lot, but I promise it won't take that long. So we'll go through kind of just some background on SMS marketing if you're not familiar, some of the benefits, and then we'll pass over to Trevor to chat through Best Buddies, who they are, what they do, the great work that they do. Then talk about what they did with us in Whispir, what the future holds for the relationship that we have, the community impact, and then a quick Q&A at the end. So talking about SMS marketing, you can see, I won't go through all these graphics, but the point being that the market itself is hugely expanding. You can imagine there's a lot of noise in the market in terms of notifications through email and phone calls and many different elements of communication. And a lot of folks have found the easiest way to communicate now is through SMS. And that's really about the immediacy and the ability to get an immediate response. So it's really clear that that's become a key channel for lots of organizations. And just some facts around it, just a couple of kind of key best practices, I would say, if you're going to use SMS. The first one would definitely be around personalization. With the recent information around phishing and some of the concerns around security, it's extremely important that you declare yourself, your organization, and then personalize that message, of course, to that individual as well. So that's really key. And that will mean you want to segment those contacts based upon what you know about them. So what are they interested in? What have they previously purchased? What are they involved in? To make sure that that message is as direct as it possibly can be and relevant to the recipient as it possibly can be. And then from a convenience perspective, again, a lot of our clients, a lot of our customers are looking for automation. And the Whispir platform helps them do that. And so it's not just about a one-way SMS text being sent to a recipient, but it's really about also how do you automate some of that back and forth and two-way communication. So you want to make sure you have a platform that can do that for you and can automate some triggers back and forth to give that seamless experience to the user. So just some kind of hints and tips as we go forward and think about how to use SMS in your campaigns. All right, I'm going to hand over to Trevor now to talk about Best Buddies. Trevor, over to you.
Thanks, David. So yeah, thanks for having me on here. This is awesome. Best Buddies International, we are an organization that works toward the full inclusion of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in our society. And the way that we accomplish that is through creating one-to-one friendships, integrated employment opportunities, leadership development opportunities for both people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities, which we call IDD. And most recently, our most recent wing to the organization that we launched, I think back in 2018, is our Best Buddies Living. So we're focusing on inclusive living for people with and without IDD. So in short, we are an organization that is solely focused on ensuring that every person, regardless of their perceived ability level, is able to have a seat at the table and is able to contribute to society in a way that is without barriers. And so like our whole mission is to just break those down and offer these people who have so much to offer the opportunity to show that. So that's kind of best buddies in a nutshell. I've been with the organization for just over 8 years now, and seen the full gamut from working directly with our students and our teachers that are volunteering to facilitate these friendships on school campuses, all the way up into the development sphere, where I've worked with our donors and our corporate partners and our foundations to ensure that we're able to, raise enough money to implement these programs. And during that time, we've launched our jobs programs and strengthen that. And there are just so many incredible placements and impact that's happening, not just here in the United States, but globally as well. We are in over 57 countries, and it's just pretty incredible to be a part of a movement that is having such a profound impact on people's lives.
Fantastic stuff. Great. So I think, why, I think if you could chat a little bit, Trevor, about why you chose Whispir. I mean, I think at the time in the beginning of this journey, you were using email primarily as a form of communication to potential donors and to promote some of your events and activities. And just curious how you came across Whispir and what you were thinking at the time as you were evaluating different methods of communication.
Right. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I think, email is still, just an incredibly effective marketing tactic, especially when it comes to our Friendship Walk events. So the Friendship Walk is one of our two signature events that Best Buddies International does. But this one is a peer-to-peer fundraising model, and this is by far the one that has the most attendees, overall, scope as far as what the organization does. If you attend a Friendship Walk, you're able to kind of see a slice of every single piece of the organization all gathered in one space. And so every single year, we're looking to optimize and continue to push the boundaries of what we can do with our fundraising, to make sure that the Friendship Walk becomes a household name. And eventually, it'd be great to put Best Buddies out of business. The world is just so naturally inclusive that programs like ours don't need to exist. But until we get there, the Friendship Walk is one of the ways that is going to help us continue to grow and expand our impact. So everything that Best Buddies does is all based within relationships. And so I think the reason why we went to Whispir is because, email communications can sometimes get a little bit flat. You can personalize it to a certain degree. You can pull in different, hey, hello friend, insert their first name. This is how much you've raised, etc. But like you mentioned in the beginning, personalization, you said 71% of people are expecting some sort of personalization when it comes to different marketing strategies. So every year we're looking to, optimize what that looks like. And for an organization that prides itself so deeply on relationships, SMS marketing was the natural fit for us to be able to continue to build relationships with, those key stakeholders, whether that's donors or volunteers, whoever that is. And so the reason why we looked into Whispir was originally based on a relationship that was cultivated by one of our state directors. And he said, hey, we ran this pilot program. This is super successful for us. So we took a look at it from a national level and said, yes, this is 100% exactly what we're looking for. And just the ability to connect with folks in a more individualized manner is just absolutely incredible. So that was the reason behind all of it. And so, and as you can see,
just on that point, sorry, Trevor, just on that point, was it important for you to test that out beforehand? I mean, we just curious on that, because you mentioned we did run a pilot for Best Buddies, and that I imagine was an important. You're not in the business of just rolling out new technology. I'm assuming, right?
Correct. Yeah. We love to innovate, but the innovation needs to make sense before we roll it out. And so it was important to test that out, just to make sure that it was, something that our people wanted from us. And we saw, a lot of really great response rates, boosts in attendance at events, boosts in fundraising levels, which, I think that's really what you're looking to do is accomplish. If, boosting revenue and boosting engagement, if you can achieve that, then, it's a no-brainer. So once we were able to, run that few month pilot program, take a look at it and say, does this make sense solely for that market, or does this make sense nationally? And we said, hey, this makes a ton of sense nationally. So that's when we really said, all right, let's go with it.
Great. Great. And just one thing on this, on the right hand side of this chart, as we look at it, the 1% over there, just want to, for the audience's sake, there, that's a pledge that Whispir have made as from the 1% pledge, it's called. So we actually pledge 1% of our employees' time. So as a corporation, we donate 3 days. We give people 3 days leave to do whatever they need to do for their nonprofit of choice. And then when we talk about pledging 1% of the product, what does that mean? That means that we have special rates for the platform itself, which obviously Best Buddies certainly could have taken advantage of, as well as transactional rates also. So yeah, it's certainly an important sector for us to contribute to as well. So we're really happy to see those results.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Is you know, I think everything can sound good in a theoretical space, but you know, what does it look like once it's implemented? And obviously you can see, you know, we were able to raise a lot, to raise more. I mean, it was a 36% increase, which we expected, kind of exiting a pandemic and just people feeling a little bit more comfortable gathering at in-person events. However, I don't think that we would have achieved these numbers without the implementation of an SMS marketing campaign. I think people are wanting change, and they're okay with change, and they're understanding technology a little bit differently, and just the familiarity of it all. So I think Whispir and just SMS marketing in general, just you know, as you can see, we raised $2,400 in a 4 to 6 hour period. That was a pretty cool thing to see. It was a message sent out from our Washington, D.C. office, and it was a Friday.
What was that? Just curious. What was?
Yeah, it was you know, it was a push to you know, we always host a launch week for our national friendship walk. So across the country, we say it's launch week. Here's where we're revealing our t-shirt designs. We're running a promotion, $100 challenge, raise $100 by Friday at midnight, and you know, you'll receive a little prize pack. And so the DC office really wanted to push that up, and I looked at our donation numbers from 2021 during launch week, and it was basically your standard bell curve. You know, so Wednesday was our biggest day, and then Friday, you know, folks are getting off work if they're entering the weekend. So our DC office said, hey, you know, we want to send out something specifically just to all of our previous registrants and donors, and see if we can't get a last minute push. And so from 2021, where they would typically raise about $300, they sent out a text at, I think it was 7 p.m. Eastern time. By midnight Eastern, they had raised $2,400. And so it was you know, that right there was what sold a lot of our, you know, our state staff. You know, we did a lot of our own national sends, but really the great part about this is that we were able to kind of localize it, and we'll chat a little bit later about that. But it was pretty incredible to see that, and that was so early on in the season. And so for our folks to really kind of see that direct impact coming in, just created a ton of buy-in. So it was really cool to launch it that way.
Great. Good.
So
yeah, go ahead, Trevor.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, personalization, as I've said, you know, that's just the name of the game for us. So as you saw on a couple slides ago, you know, it was a sample of one of the text messages that we had sent out, and it was, you know, there's the friendship walk is coming up in 5 days. You know, here are, you know, 5 tips in order to hit your goals. And it was things like that that allowed it to be a lot more conversational versus, you know, something that looks really beautiful. You know, it's a rich email, and there's headers and buttons and photos and everything like that. But sometimes I think people really just want, you know, to know that you're paying attention to them, and B, you know, I think it really allowed us to enter the space of, you know, like I said, that conversational space where, you know, it felt like a text from a friend versus a text from a corporation. And so it was important for us to, you know, always introduce ourselves, you know, hey, it's your friends at Best Buddies, you know, click this link, and, you know, send your link out to 5 friends and family, and, you know, hit your next incentive level to earn a windbreaker. So, you know, it's that kind of stuff that allowed us to really, you know, take a look at some of those replies that came in through the platform, and, you know, say, hey, you know, these folks are really interested in getting more involved, or, you know, this person wasn't as involved and is re-engaging, saying that, you know, hey, they took a few years off. And so it was really cool to kind of see the variety of responses that came in through that.
No, that's good. And on the, you know, high volume, low cost piece, I mean, obviously SMS is more expensive than email. There's no getting away from that. But yeah, I'm assuming through the reporting, you're able to see, that return, so at least justify it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that we had done for the first year, and we always take a look after a season, and we do multiple checks throughout the year. And okay, how's this going? Is this having the impact that we thought it was? I think that's plays right into the real-time reporting. So if there's one particular communication style that isn't landing as well, and one that is, maybe we can provide some feedback to our state offices and saying, hey, this is what we're seeing working across the country, so we can really make that real-time adjustment. But in general, I think it was almost all the way up until walk day, and one of our state director in our Ohio office, she utilized the Whispir platform fairly regularly. And then so she asked, hey, what's my cost? I need to take a look at my budget, making sure that I'm staying within the numbers that I had set. And we had said, hey, you've only spent $60. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's it. And so she goes, oh man, if I had known that before, I would spend way more, because she saw the value there. So as we've entered our next budget season, we've really told folks, hey, this really works, and we are seeing a lot of really great returns on this. And so we're starting to see a lot of folks bumping up their costs for SMS marketing for their individual events. And I think we spent so as a whole, having a 4.6, and we've actually, I think, as of last Monday, we're at just above 4.9 million. We're probably going to break 5 million this year.
Great. Congratulations.
Which is incredible. Thank you. But as we take a look at that, we look at the overall cost of it and just seeing how small of a cost that is for how large of an impact that it's having. And that's, huge, especially for a nonprofit. And we're very proud of the fact that we
keep costs low, right?
We put our money where our mouth is, and we allow that money to go right back into our programs. And so, leveraging SMS marketing at a pretty small cost, and it's just really allowed us to continue to grow.
And that's what's great, right? Is I know from you have offices all in every state, sometimes multiple in the same state, and so you've been able to leverage Whispir. As the way that Whispir works, just again for the audience, is you have different workspaces and you can use them for whatever. The way that Best Buddies uses it is those workspaces effectively are different offices, if you like, or in some instances different states, and so they can create their own campaign and go use it themselves. I'm curious, any kind of interesting stories from some of the states that have used it in certain ways?
It's interesting. So our headquarters is based in Miami, Florida. And so I think we have, 8 walk events just in the state of Florida alone. And so it's interesting that the texts that were being responded to in Miami were different than the texts that were being responded to in Jacksonville. And it's the same state. So you'd think, hey, the demographics are roughly the same. We did see a few areas really take advantage of it and saying, okay, we've got our event chair who's, this local media personality. So let's go ahead and, ask them if we can send out a text on behalf of them. And so they would say, of course, that's awesome. Let me provide you some copy and some content. And then they were able to say, hey, it's this person. And, we sent one from our founder to launch everything. And we said, hey, it's Anthony Schreiber here. And, a lot of our program participants, our families are familiar with the Kennedy Schreiber name as the founder of Best Buddies. And, just for all the incredible work that their families have done over the years. But that was by far one of the coolest responses. It was, people look down and they say, oh my gosh, I'm getting a text from Anthony Kennedy Schreiber. This is incredible. And that's one of the coolest things that we were able to do. And then locally, folks would use that as well. There's a news anchor in San Francisco that's emceeing the walk. And so they recorded a quick video and sent it out to everybody, via text. And so it's that piece, that personalization that, just keep coming back to. But we have 60, we had 60 events this year. We're going to have 65 events next year. And I remember our Nashville team said, hey, this is all really well and fine, but we really want to take ownership of how this looks, how this feels, how this sounds. So that way, somebody from Nashville, I can keep it as general as possible, but the way that I speak might be different from somebody who lives in Tennessee. So that's the other piece that I think really created a lot of buy-in amongst our staff members, who are the ones actually the boots on the ground that are, running these events and, making those connections. And so that was another really great piece that we liked about.
Yeah, it's a great point you make. Just that ability to be able to, they control it themselves, right? So it's not like you're dictating from headquarters, oh, here comes headquarters again with some idea, and now I have to, now they're going to throw these messages at me. But the ability for them to get involved and really feel it is great. All right, let's keep moving. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the future. There you go, 4.9. I mean, the team's already updated. That's
Yeah.
real time. Well done, team.
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited to continue to see what this looks like. And one of the things that we really appreciate about working with Whispir is that we do have the ability to kind of reach out, and if we're having some questions, or if we're encountering any sort of technical difficulties, which thankfully are very, very few and far between, but regardless, there is that commitment from Whispir to say, hey, we've got your back, let's make sure that we get to the bottom of this ASAP. And so that just it builds that trust, and it is continued to the trust just continues to build as we continue to use the product and see it just continuing to have that increased impact. And 100%, I would spend that money 10 times over if it meant that we could continue to connect with our audiences. And I mean, 0.3% of a budget, obviously there's a lot of moving pieces and parts, and making sure that everything stays balanced, but right. It was a really easy decision for us to go down that road, especially when you break it out amongst a bunch of different offices and states. So that 14.6 doesn't solely reside just within one budget. That's kind of broken out amongst all of the workspaces. And so again, it gives folks the opportunity to take full control, take more control over it, and say, hey, this is great, we spent $250 on Whispir last year, let's bump that up to $750 and see what we can do with it, while also providing this, what Stuart and myself and Lise on our team, she's our director of communications, just taking a look at that and saying, we're going to provide some best practices for you. If you want to, we'll train you on how to use it. So if you want to log in and have full control, 100%, let's go for it. But let's also understand a little bit behind best practices with SMS marketing. Let's not just send text messages out to everybody because that you're getting a higher return on investment. There is that science to it. So that's one thing that we're able to provide as the national directors of the event, and then allowing the states to really kind of take it and run with it and see what that looks like in their markets.
Well, and I think also, like you mentioned, that visibility for each division to see how much they're spending is key as well, right? So there's no confusion around allocation of, okay, we're going to allocate some percentage of this budget to each of you. Again, it's all about, hey, you'll get charged whatever you actually consume. So, and you can see that real time as well. So, okay, great. All right. Well, I think let's wrap it up a little bit here. And just again, want to thank Trevor. Mentioned a number of different things there, but I think the key thing for me, the takeaway for me, is really personalization. I mean, our North Star in Whispir is really engagement. And what does engagement mean? Well, to us, it means that whatever message you're sending out actually gets consumed by the recipient. It may sound obvious. I mean, if you're going to communicate, you want the other person who's going to receive it to actually make sure that they're listening to that. But often it's not the case, especially today when there's a million different things coming at us. So to hear that, that engagement level was so high within Best Buddies is great, because we're constantly striving to make sure that we can increase engagement. And again, we talked a lot about how do you do that? Well, region to region, right? As Trevor mentioned, you're changing your message based on where you are, even North Florida to South Florida. There's a nuance that needs to be taken into account. Trevor, again, you mentioned video, adding video in there and making sure that somebody can consume video can also change it as well. But yeah, I appreciate the time, and we can check back now, I guess, to the team. Is there any questions that have come through the chat that we want to cover? No. All right. Well, Trevor, I'll hand it back to you to kind of wrap it up for us.
Of course, yeah. I was just thinking through another, it's really cool to be able to have an impact when you work with somebody, families, particularly folks. I mean, we don't ask for any kind of socioeconomic data. And so, as you're kind of pushing all this information out to people, it's really important to us to understand that we're communicating responsibly and ethically, that we're, making sure that we are providing them with high quality content, and relevant content. One of our offices ran a campaign where they reached out to all of the parents of all of the students that registered for particular school teams. There are, high schools in the area where they had students that registered for the walk. And so they decided to use Whispir to say, to send a message out to the parents saying, we're so honored that your child has decided to take part in the largest walk in the country that's raising funds and awareness for the inclusion of people with disabilities. And we saw a lot of really great responses from the parents that were just like, wow, that's so great. Of course, we love Best Buddies, or some that said, I had no idea. Thanks for sharing that. And so it is bridging that gap for us. And I think that that's, at the end of the day, revenue will come in, engagement will come in if you're, connecting with people on a human level. And Whispir allows us to really make more of that human connection through increasingly non-human space.
No, that's a great point. And it's that relevance as well you mentioned, right? Making sure that, you're obviously communicating with people in that particular region, relevant for that particular event. So it doesn't feel like some kind of marketing blast that's come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, there's thoughtfulness behind it. There's, time and effort that's put behind it. Stewardship in any realm, whether that's nonprofit, for profit, it doesn't matter. You have a responsibility to your customers or to your constituents to, let them know that you are, aware of what they want. And so it's nice to be able to send those out and saying, hey, this really worked in this area. Provide that opportunity for other areas that, there's the one area in Tampa and Orlando that said, we're gonna talk to the parents, and that had just such a great response. So as we move forward, we're gonna, incorporate more of those suggestions, saying, let's connect up with the parents, let's connect with the families. And then in addition, run your promotions. People like stuff. And so, I think there's making sure that it's varied in a way that's very easily digestible. I mean, getting a text message is a lot less cumbersome than trying to sift through, 200, 500 words than an email with graphics and everything like that. So it's we love the variety that this brought to our e-communications. And so we're looking forward to continuing to utilize the platform and, just seeing what that looks like for next year. We're hoping to raise over 5.5 million next year. We know that this is going to be a big way to get us there. It's a, big jump from our goal from last year, but based on the returns that we saw, we feel a lot more comfortable being aggressive.
Great. No, that's fantastic. And listen, I want to thank you again for allowing Whispir to be part of that journey. It's been, honestly, a privilege for us and great fun as well. So we're looking forward to next year and looking forward to helping you meet that goal.
We've got some big ideas, and we know that the team's going to be right there alongside us every step of the way. So we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us at the webinar. As I said, we'll get the Q&A information out after the call and a copy of the presentation as well. So thanks to everyone, and thanks to you, Trevor.
Of course. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.